Rick, we have got a special guest today.
Yes, we do.
Let's call, I would say, a YouTube phenomenon.
A phenomenon.
He's got
yes.
Well over 100,000 subscribers.
Yep.
He does these videos, these long form, not always long, but long form. It's spectacular.
Yeah.
And we love his stuff, and we're really excited to have him on.
And he's on right now. So let's start the show.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the Minutia Men Celebrity Interview with Rick and Dave.
Dave, he's the pride of Vancouver, British Columbia. His friends call him by his real name, which is Robin Spanell. But to his over 132,000 subscribers and others who have viewed his YouTube videos now over 37 million times, he is known as Shatner's Hairpiece, which we love. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Should we call you Mr. Hairpiece, or what should we call you?
Either way, it's fine.
Well, that's the obvious question.
Don't call me Shakespeare's hairpiece. Some guy actually called me that on the street the other day. He said, "You're Shakespeare's hairpiece?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I saw that.
I go way back.
Friends, Roman country. The obvious question I have. The first question anybody will ask you is, why Shatner's Hairpiece? Where does that come from?
Well, with the YouTube, you always try to get something that stands out. And, I came up with this, I think it was 2006 when I started the channel. I was one of the first people on YouTube. And I think it was an old email that I had. And I was using it on my Yahoo account. And I've always been a big fan of Shatner and his
hairpiece,
huge collection of fantastic wigs over the last 50 years.
I think my favorite was the T.J. Hooker era.
Yeah, the T.J. Hooker is a classic. Yeah.
Wait.
What was shocking to me was the fact that I realized when I found out that he actually wore a piece during the original Star Trek. I was actually it really depressed me. I was like, "What? That's a really good piece. That was the best one, and he should have stuck with that." Or the 70s, but obviously they had to take it back. He couldn't keep it, and he probably couldn't afford that level of
hairpiecery, hairpiece artistry.
Exactly,
that
was a really fine work, and
that was network money.
Yeah, that was network money, right? Now, anybody who's seen your videos can tell that you are a friggin' great guitar player.
Yes.
Now, you play on the street, presumably, or what you had mentioned is because many of the clubs that you used to play in have all closed, and certainly COVID didn't help, I'm sure. Talk to us a little bit about that, and how do people react other than, referring to you as as Shakespeare? But, how do people react when you walk by? Those videos are just fantastic when you piece in people's interactions. You must have some great stories.
Well, yeah, I actually wrote a book about it, I think, from 2019. I've been out there since 2015, but I started keeping a diary. And around 2019, I was doing it on a daily basis, and then I actually published that as a book. You can get it as a PDF. I still advertise it on my links, like $5 tip. You can get my Joys of Busking diary. So when anybody asks me about, hey, what's it like? And I'm thinking about starting busking. And I'm like, you should read this first.
Because then you're going to run far away, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so that's kind of like, the good and the bad and the ugly, everything's in there. So that's something I'm trying to do now even, is keep a daily diary before I forget everything, because I tend to, it all starts to blur together, and unless you write it down and, get the pictures out and see what happens, it's like, oh, yeah, right, that happened and this happened. I got to write that down, because, people were telling me, too, when I was telling them stories, they're like, man, you need to write a book. And so I started to do that. And, occasionally people will check that out. But, yeah, it's kind of like a roller coaster, the whole experience. The reason I got out there in 2015 was, mainly because the club scene died in Vancouver. So a lot of people are always like, well, man, you should be in a band. You're good enough to be in a band. And I say, well, yeah, I was doing that for 10 years and had many bands, and there were, a fair amount of gigs. But that all ended after a lot of these clubs, and I'm living downtown Vancouver, and there used to be many neighborhood pubs and bars that you could play at, and they pretty much all disappeared, either taken over for hotels or ripped out for condos, or they just could not keep live music going because there wasn't really an audience for it anymore. I mean, the longest playing club I was in, been around since the early 80s. I think Bryan Adams actually started there because he was living in North Van. And so he used to be there. And there were lots of, Lee Aaron was playing there, and she was there when I was playing there. And that guy who ran the club was probably in his 70s now, but he's been in Vancouver a long time, and he saw Jimi Hendrix when he was in Vancouver, and he used to tell me all these stories about that, and I was like, wow. And so he ran that place, and he was like the last of the old guard. And when he sold that place, they never brought live music back, because the accountant who I talked to actually said to me, it is a loss. Live music is a loss. And that was pretty depressing. And so I was just happy that I got in there for a few years. And I think that last time I was in there was about 2015. So yeah, they shut down. So I saw that all over. And right now there's just maybe some hotels that still run it. In the tourist areas like Gastown, there's a couple places. So yeah, it's really difficult. And that's why I decided I had enough of this. And there was a lot of stress involved with bands. And I mean, I had a huge amount of singers go through bands. I had to make a video about that. It was called the Singer Auditions from Hell. That also was got a lot of hits on YouTube. And it was really just me talking in a animated form with all these singers and just putting out actual dialogue. So while there's that positive side of being in a band and you get to be, on stage and all that, but there was a lot of stress with it, and constant rotation of new sets with new singers. And you get somebody in and they last a week, and then you get somebody else in, you got to start all over again, rehearsals and dealing with all that. And then of course, kissing up to managers left and right, trying to get gigs, so much of that. And I said, there's got to be an easier way. So I decided I would try the solo thing. And I started with that around 2013, playing on Granville Island, which is a huge tourist spot here. But there you needed a license. It was about, $120. And I remember that it took a long time to make that money back. And even, you'd think there were a lot of tourists there, but people weren't paying. And then that got frustrating because they only gave me an hour. And I had to be there in the morning for a lottery. So with 20, 30 other people at 10 in the morning, take a number out of a hat. And if you're in the top 3, you might get a good spot. The rest of the spots were not good. So you might be having to have the 6th selection, and then you have to come back at 2 in the afternoon. And I said, this is ridiculous too. So then I finally said, I'm just going to go downtown, pick a spot, and try it out. And that's what I've been doing for 8 years. And that worked out a lot better.
What made you decide to start filming it and putting it on YouTube? Or was that something that you did immediately? What's the chicken and what's the egg here?
Yeah, that was, I think, the first year I didn't have a camera. And then I started thinking, that was a good jam that I did, where I played something, and then I'm like, I really should be filming this. Or somebody would film me, and then I'd be like, hey, send me that video. And this was around the time, I guess, where GoPro was still early. I probably had a GoPro 2 or something. And then I remember finally saying, I'm just going to get a camera. Because I tried putting a regular camera on the guitar. It was one of these old Panasonics. It was 5 inches wide, and I had on a clamp on the bottom of the guitar, and it was kind of like a shot up the nose up the guitar. And I tried that early on.
Got to get that mole checked,
Yeah, exactly. So it was nausea-inducing if you watched it on YouTube because of the angle. And I said, this is not working. So then I found out about GoPro, and then I got that in 2016. So that was the first year. Then I just started filming every single show. I was like, okay, I've got, an hour and a half per battery. So I'd take out 4 batteries, and I'd be out there for 5 hours.
Wow.
And just see what I could get and get the jams. I was basically improvising as much as I could and trying to capture those moments of free form improvisation. And then, of course, the interactions, too, that became the second thing that I started noticing. First, it was just get the jam, get the playing, and then start putting them on YouTube. And that's what I did. So, and that never really caught on, at least, I don't know, it took about 5 years before I got my first viral video. And I don't know if you've seen that one. That's the one with the little girl dancing to the ZZ Top.
Yes, I have seen that one.
Cute.
Yeah, that was, and what's nice about that is that I actually got to talk to the parents. I don't know, it took about a year or more after that went viral, and they were quite happy about it. And so I was like, great. She's seen the video, and now she's like 5 years older. So that's really what sort of set things off. Was I think everybody was stuck at home for the last 3 years and couldn't go out. And that video just resonated with everybody because they saw this happy girl spontaneously dancing and me, of course, playing and being outside.
Yeah.
I think that was the key, just being outside. So that just went nuts. All of a sudden, it was like one day to the next. I started getting tips because I decided to put a PayPal link in my video, and I don't even know why that happened. I think I saw somebody else do it, and I was like, oh, interesting idea.
Yeah. I could get paid for this.
I could get paid. Yeah, and I might have had a link to my Bandcamp music or something, but it was really not a lot of work put into the presentation of the video with like actually trying to promote myself. But after that experience with the PayPal, and I remember still getting my first tip, I was like, oh, somebody sent me $5. Oh my God.
Yeah, right.
And then it just was a flood for literally like a month, a flood every 5 minutes for, I don't know, a week because of that one video.
Wow.
And I spent 4 hours a day trying to thank all these people that were writing me. Oh, you saved my life with this video. I mean, people were just gushing. It was a real, outpouring of people just relieved to see life still going on, or feeling that they were getting some kind of, therapy out of my music. And I heard from a lot of people like that over the next couple of years. There were just, people on their deathbed. I mean, some of that stuff is depressing to hear, but there would be people who were, either recovering from an illness, or they had something, or they were, on their last months or something, and just hearing them say this music was helping them get through the day. That was really rewarding, and I think that's sort of the main impetus I had, to keep it going. It was like, I'm hearing from all these people that are getting some kind of joy out of the music. It's connecting with them, which was obviously not always happening on the street. I mean, on the street, it's 99% apathy.
Yeah, right. It's
which is kind of, and it's actually gotten worse now. I mean, 3 years ago wasn't that bad, like 2019, but now I've noticed it's definitely people are paying less and the tips are less. And
it's business as usual. Yeah, we got past the pandemic. Exactly. It's now all about me again.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Some of your jams are. I mean, first of all, like Rick said, you are a spectacular guitar player. You are really great. But some of these jams are really long, and I'm talking like hours long. And I've heard you describe it as a kind of a form of meditation for you, and what you just described, it's almost like a form of meditation and therapy for people that were watching it too. That do you? I assume you kind of get lost in a jam, right? And you kind of lose yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, the whole point of the extended jamming came out of, first of all, when I was in bands, my last band was an instrumental trio, and that was probably my favorite because there was, I didn't have to think about lyrics, didn't have to think about the singer. Oh, now the singer's doing her thing, and now maybe I can play after that. It became just a improvisation trio where we would jam over, movie themes, TV themes, funk, whatever. And that's where I had the freedom, and I really enjoyed that. And I wanted to keep that going, and I just took it to an extreme level. Like now, there's probably no band that would have me because I'd be playing for an hour.
We ain't taking that Shatner's hairpiece guy. It's
We're on number 2 on our set list, dude. You know, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, like the other day, I think I did 3, and I was out there for 3 hours. I did 3 songs.
Wow.
So my record, I think, was 4 hours. I just have a song on YouTube. I think it's called "Too Far Gone." And that was done at home sometime in the last 3 years because I was at home too, doing studio stuff. But that was the longest. But I'm finding it actually, yeah, that's a combination of always trying to, get in the zone, and sometimes the longer I play, it's easier to achieve. So, sometimes it might take a couple minutes, but then there's this, you kind of reach this meditative state where that's all that's in your head is just you're following this rhythm, and I don't even see anything around me anymore. Like the people I know they're not really paying attention, which is fine with me because then I'm able to fully concentrate on what I'm doing. So it's kind of like being at home alone, and so I'm never nervous because it might be different if there were like say 50 people sitting around you all staring at you. It might become more self-conscious, but I avoid that now because I'm just getting right into it. And it is a meditation, trying to find something new each time. It's like, okay, I've done things this way. Now let's try it this way, and let's
see what
turn
happens.
the notes around.
Now, do you ever, do you watch the videos afterwards and go, I did that? I didn't even remember that. I mean, I would imagine that happens, right? Do you actually, do you watch the videos after you do them, or do you watch all of them?
Yeah, usually because I have to edit them. Yeah. That's the other work, right? The fun is the playing. So I might be out for 4 or 5 hours, and of course, then by the time I get home, I'm completely exhausted, mentally and physically. Because there's the concentration aspect as well. I have to have like eyes in the back of my head because I'm working in a fairly dangerous area. There's constant encounters with crackheads and drug addicts, and the homeless are around there, and the mentally ill are around there. So I never know who is coming up on me. And the place I work, people regularly die there. That's how bad it is.
Really?
Because I'm 2 blocks from downtown East Side, which is, the worst area in all of Canada for drug addiction. So they all filter down to the train station, the waterfront station, because that's where the people are. So you'll get the people coming down there to beg, and so I'm dealing with that crowd as well as the tourist crowd. So you got a mix of the working class, the tourists, and the drug addicts. So I have to have full, awareness, like, is somebody trying to steal my stuff? And that's happened a few times. But so trying to concentrate on music while dealing with, what's happening around me can get really draining. And so when I get home, I'm passing out, and then I will spend the next day trying to process those videos. And that's what takes a lot of time. So I am listening to them as I go through them, and I'll be like, okay, and then I'll find stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this is really good here. This part that I played, I didn't remember that. And that's the fun part of it, is actually having a record of it. Otherwise, I would never know.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I forget everything.
I'm noticing, and you're obviously a rock and roll guy, blues, funk, that sort of music. Great stuff. But you know who just released a blues album?
Who?
William Shatner.
Right, yeah.
What do you think about getting him out there on the street with you? I mean, Shatner's Hairpiece starring William Shatner.
Yeah. Well, John Belushi did Joe Cocker with Joe Cocker right next to him, right? So
it's a natural. Just something to keep in mind. Have you ever actually met Shatner?
Have you met him?
No, I haven't been. But if you guys want to contact him, feel free.
I met him once.
That's more cool. Yeah?
Yeah, you want to hear my I'll tell you my Shatner story.
Sure.
I was doing a live appearance for a radio station, and it was one of these things where it was an auto show in downtown Chicago. Nobody was there except, a few people straggling here and there. And right next to us was a live appearance from William Shatner. Now, this goes back to the 80s, right? So a long time ago. Shatner, right. Captain Kirk, William Shatner. He was in a trailer, and there was a line forming to meet him. The line was 3 people long, and I was one of the 3. I left my own broadcast to go in line to see if I could meet him. He came out, and he had like a stack of photographs with him, and he said, "Listen, I'm not gonna do any autographs. I'm just here to say hello, press the flesh." And that's it. And we all, the 3 of us in line, looked around and goes, "There's just 3 of us."
How long can it possibly take you?
I mean, so we went up to him, shook his hand, and then he was gone. It was. I wonder how much they paid him for like an 8-second appearance. But anyway. So that's my shit.
No. Well, that's great.
So do people ask you for requests? I mean, granted, you do blues and funk. Does anybody ever go to you and go, "Hey, can you do that Andy Williams hit?" Or do you know "Melancholy Baby"? I mean, are you getting requests?
Oh yeah, well I get them on the YouTube channel as well as the street. I'm on the street. Sometimes people will walk up to me right in the middle of I'm playing some extended solo, and they're like, "Can you play "Girl from Ipanema"?" And I'm like, "No." Does it look like I play that? I could do it, but and then sometimes people will. The best one I think was a couple of weeks ago. Some guy came up to me and in a foreign language asked for the song, and I didn't understand what he was talking about. He's like, "Can you play blah 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 blah?" And I'm like, "Sorry, I don't even understand what that is." And he continued asking for it, even though I had repeatedly told him, "I don't understand what you are saying." Then he took out his phone and was pointing to his phone. "Can you search it and then play it?" Oh, so you want me to search for the song
something that I don't
understand? And then you want me to learn it while I'm on the phone, play it?
Well, now with ChatGPT, you could probably do that, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, or somebody will request a song. They think I'm like a human jukebox, and they come up to me and, "Can you play Santana? Something Santana?" And I'm like, "Actually, yeah, I can do that." So I will. He's holding a $1 coin in his hand. Oh. So I start playing the song. I actually stopped playing what I was playing, which was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. But I started playing the Santana, and 20 seconds into the Santana, he's like, Eric Clapton.
Oh, man.
Heaven Can Wait, or Heaven, Tears from Heaven. And he didn't know the name of the song. And I'm like, "No, I don't know that." And I said, "I can do, there was some other Clapton song, Cocaine or something
Layla.
like that. Or the Bob Marley one that he does." And so I ended up doing 3 different songs, and the guy would never listen to the whole song. He was like 20 seconds in, he'd start calling something else out, still holding his $1 coin. Like, I needed to do the 3 songs before he'd give me the $1. And then finally he just walked away.
He didn't give you the $1?
And I made a video of that.
He didn't give you the buck?
No, he didn't give me the $1. No, he kept it.
Wow. That's
so,
like
that's an extreme, but that kind of thing does happen. And of course, it makes a great video. So that's all I think.
Yeah, right. So that's
a lot is I can at least get a video out of it.
You were talking earlier about how dangerous this area is. Do you ever get hassled by the cops? Do they ever come up to you and like tell you to get out of there?
No, I get hassled by other people. The cops are never there. That's the problem.
Yeah.
When they should be there, but they. It's kind of like the Wild West there. You're on your own because you don't have any protection. There's no, wire mesh that you can put around you. So I just was talking to a fellow busker this morning, and she said there were 2 incidents there yesterday. While she was playing, somebody was in the station with a weapon, and a fight broke out. So that's right across, we're outside, and if you go 20 feet ahead, you're in the station. So something went down there twice, and there were police around. So I don't know, maybe they're starting to clue in that it's not a good area and they should have more patrols. But I very rarely see cops. And even when they are there, I see stuff going on around me, and they don't care. For example, I could have a drunk guy standing right next to me screaming, and there's 5 cops leaning against their car, like right behind me. And I turned around and I got all that on film, and they're just laughing and joking. Meanwhile, there's a guy standing there with a full bottle, screaming, and they don't care.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that where they just don't get involved unless something really serious happens.
Well, they were eating.
So
their,
I've been attacked.
They were eating their Tim Hortons donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the part of the problem. There is there's no regular patrols, and it's been getting worse. And now I don't know if you know this, but here in BC, they've made all hard drugs legal. So basically, anybody can carry, and I think there's a limit to how much they can carry, but they can carry whatever they want. So fentanyl, heroin, crack, it's all legal. So I'm seeing a lot more people messed up. A guy died on my spot last month. There was flowers put. There's like a mailbox thing there near where I play, and these guys will just come down there and they'll just slip away at that spot. They maybe go there to try to get their last dollar begging, and then they just gone. And that's happened a few times, where you'll see guys who are basically, they're on something and they'll stand in front of me and they get in this sort of semi-crouched position and they freeze. And they stare and they freeze. They don't move for 15 minutes. They're just literally staring. And that can be a bit discomforting.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on with this person and how far gone they are. And so that whole area, right, there's these pillars and there's in front of me, and people sort of sleep there or they shoot up there. And it's amazing to me that the city really doesn't do anything to clean this up. Like, they should have seen my videos by now.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
pretty sure the city has seen some of the big ones where I have like 8 million views.
Yeah, you've got 35. Right? You've got 35 million views.
You'd think one of them was there.
Yeah, somebody in the city government has seen it.
Yeah, and they think, wow, that doesn't make us look good. Because all I hear from people is, what city is this? And I'll say, oh, this is Vancouver. They all think it's New York or it's San Francisco. And I'm like, no, this is Vancouver, Canada. They don't have any idea what it's like and how bad the drug situation is here. So they just want to make it legal for all these people instead of getting them help. So you see that effect when you're playing down there. So I'm hearing stories from everybody who plays there. Crazy people come through. I mean, I've been attacked. I have once had a guy stand there and scream at me for playing Pink Floyd. And then he wouldn't leave. And then he started telling everybody else, don't pay this guy. He's playing Pink Floyd. So he had something against Pink Floyd. And then he slammed me in the head with his bag of books or something. And I actually had to defend myself with my guitar. So I managed to pop him in the head with it. And then then he ran off, and then he came back, and then I had him held by security until the cops showed up. And they were like, what do you want to do with this guy? I said, well, take him away. He's nuts. And then while they put him into the wagon, I continued playing Pink Floyd.
As loud as you could.
Just out of curiosity, which Pink Floyd song was it? Do you remember?
Oh, it's probably Another Brick in the Wall.
Okay.
I think that was the one.
All right, it is a little overplayed in his defense,
But you got another bag in the head when you were trying to brick in the wall. Hey, what was the biggest tip you've ever gotten, and what were you playing? Do you remember?
The biggest tip was, I think, last year. I was playing some kind of Pink Floyd style jam.
See? Stick with the Pink Floyd.
Love them or hate them. Are you still there?
Yeah. The biggest tip while on the street was a woman came up to me while I was playing this Floyd jam, and then she just splayed out a huge amount of bills on my guitar bag. And I was like, what are you doing? And it turned out to be about $400.
Oh, wow.
And then she just kind of stepped back and started grooving to the music. I think she was high. I don't know if she was drunk, but she definitely acted like she was on something. So maybe the next day she realized she had given all her money away. Didn't know where it went. But that was the biggest one. Other than not on the street, I think my biggest tip was last October where a YouTube fan, gave me a guitar.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if you've seen the guitar I play on the street. It's called a Parker Fly. It's it's the best guitar I've ever played. But the company's out of business. They made really advanced guitars. They were super light, like 5 pounds. Piezo pickups, stainless steel frets, really super smooth playing. I've had that guitar since 2008. And then the company went out of business about 5 years later. So now the guitars are really collectible, and most people have never experienced them, and they're missing out completely. Adrian Ballou is another guitar player who swears by these guitars. He's about the only one I know of who really got into them. But last year, a fan was telling me in an email, he says, I have an old Parker Fly from 1997, and I don't play it. Would you like to have it?
Wow.
That's
and
nice.
I was thinking, this can't be right. There's something fishy. Well, it turned out to be real. He ended up sending me this guitar from the other side of Canada, and it was in perfect condition. And this was even, honestly better than the guitar I had. I had a 2008 model, and that was already at the point where the Parker company was farming out their manufacturing to another company. So the quality had been dropping in various aspects of the design or the manufacturing. There started to be some problems, people were reporting. But the early models that were completely overseen by Ken Parker, who designed the guitar, they were up until maybe 2002. So anything before that time was considered prime. And he had this 1998 black Parker. And when I got this, it was like Christmas again when I was 12 years old. When I got my first guitar, I was very excited. It was the same feeling, and I just couldn't believe it, how generous this guy was. I mean, the guitar is easily worth $5,000.
Wow.
And he just gave it to me. So I was just gushing, and then I've been playing it, nothing but for the last year on the street. It actually is better than the old guitar, easier to play. Didn't go out of tune as much, a little bit lighter. So yeah, that's been my mainstay now on the street. So yeah, that was the big one. And I've got, various fans like this who are, tipping me from around the world. Some people will, sign up for Patreon, and they will, donate a certain amount of money per month. That's another thing that I do. And yeah, that's really what keeps me going. That core group of fans getting me through the rough days.
Wow.
Like the other day when I was on the street, Saturday was not a good day. And, tips were down, and that can get really frustrating sometimes because, as much as I like to be playing and, you enjoy what you're playing, you still would like to get some reaction.
Sure.
Nobody exists in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
Every musician wants to get somebody enjoying their music. So if you're out there and you're doing your best, you're playing your ass off for 4 or 5 hours, and people don't respond, you start to think, like, what is going on? Like, does nobody have ears anymore? So that is part of the problem that I'm dealing with out there, is that push and pull between having fun but trying to deal with the apathy that's going on in Vancouver. And that's one thing I see. It's been getting worse. So the YouTube channel kind of saves me a bit on that, because then I hear from people who did enjoy the jam. Maybe nobody on the street noticed, but I'll get some people on YouTube who are like, yeah, I really got into this. And, here's a $10 tip. And that really helps a lot.
Well, we're big fans.
Yeah, we are.
So,
and why don't you tell people how they can follow you on YouTube? Tell them where they can give you these virtual tips, how they can contribute to keeping this cause going, which is putting great music out there on the streets of Vancouver.
Yeah, well, the big one, I think, is Bandcamp. I think I'm under Bandcamp. I'm called the $6 Million Guitar because I was a huge fan of Steve Austin, and in the 70s, that was my favorite TV show.
Why is it?
That was his bionic.
That was my
impersonation.
bionic sound effect. By the way. Wonga, 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 wonga.
Yeah, so that was my, and that's why I made my business card around. It's got like a picture of Lee Majors running while holding my guitar. Photographed that.
Well, you will now be sued. Now that you mention that, now you'll be sued. So hide that guitar, because it'll.
You got Shatner from the '60s. You got Steve Austin from the '70s. Maybe exactly. I don't know, Michael Keaton, Michael J. Fox from the '80s. That could be next. We'll work on it for you. But Robin Spanell, thank you very much for being on the show. We've really enjoyed our chat, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, and good vibes to you, man.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. I'll check it out and appreciate it. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take it easy, Robin. Bye-bye. So there he is. He is Shatner's hairpiece.
Great guy.
Yeah, he seems like a great guy. I talk to my kids about this all the time. He was talking about the appreciation, just wanting a little appreciation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know who else wants just a little appreciation?
Maybe a Rick and a Dave.
I think every human in the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
It takes like 5 seconds to appreciate someone.
Well, there's countless research out that employees, whereas they do want to get paid, it's worth almost more to them to, hey, Rick, great seg.
Yeah.
I
mean, Tony Lasano and Ed Silla have figured out how to do it. They give us a script. And at the end of each show, we say, special thanks to executive producer Tony Lasano with OPIShows.com. Opie is hippo backwards. OPPIH shows.com. It's written right there.
Right.
And we're distributed by
Ed Silla.
With Radio Misfits. Great Talk Radio is
Thank you, Ed.
It just moved to a better place. RadioMisfits.com. We have to thank them both.
Yeah. Every time. And they're well worth the thanks.
They are. Yeah. They deserve it totally. So thank you to those two guys, and thank you for listening. And we'll be back again soon with another episode of
Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The preceding was a presentation of Opie Productions. Find our other great shows wherever you find podcasts, including opishows.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?